Bitcoin buying continues to accelerate, but we are not even close to an all-time high. We have some statistics and metrics to share with you. Also, a amazing Dog with Hat party. Was that a top signal? We're going to discuss that. Also, Solana continues to face issues as more than 75% of transactions are failing. Is Solana doomed? We're going to discuss that as well. Also, which coins are getting futures contracts from Coinbase, leading to a potential spot ETF? We have that. We're going to take a look at the markets. What is Bitcoin doing? And much, much more on today's episode of Sin City Crypto. Let's get into it. Forrest! 3 days in a row, man. I am so honored to share the show with you for 3 days. Thank you so much again, Forrest, for joining us. It's been an actual, good show where people are getting a lot of good information, not people getting their names butchered all day long and getting weird rants. So thank you again for joining us, Forrest. We appreciate you. I do want to start with... there's certain top signals, right, in markets, Forrest. Like, what was your top signal in the last cycle? Something you saw, you're like, all right, this is it. Like, everything's going to come crashing out. Was there one thing that kind of stands out?
Oh, I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, like the parties and TikTok dances and the kind of I think one of the worst top signals, and I'm going to misremember exactly what it was, but this was actually in the TradFi market. This was a guy who went on Fox Business or some other, business finance show. And he was like, oh yeah, we really like this ticker. We really like this stock. And they asked him oh, what does it do? And he faked he was going offline and lagging because he couldn't say what it did. He had no idea what the company did, but he's like, wow, we're big. We love it. It's gone up for 15 days in a row.
That reminds me, I think it was at the United Nations or something. One of the representatives from country was asked about some missing money, and he faked like he passed out, and you could see his eyes open from the camera shot. Well, I might have a top signal. If you're a holder of Dog with Hat, you might want to pause the show and fast forward, because guys, this might be the end for you. The Dog with Hat party at New York NYC NFT. To all of you that make fun of my dance moves, Forrest, is this a top signal for Dog with Hat? If you are holding Dog with Hat tokens, are you selling your coins?
I posted on Twitter. I would be questioning my conviction. You don't want to sell an outperformer, right? But I would be really stopping and thinking hey, I'm being serious. I would be thinking is this a top signal? I think at the end of the video, they pan out and there's nobody in the room. In hindsight, you would look back at this and if the top is in for Dog with Hat, which I'm not saying it is, I don't know. It's been a top performer. If the top was in though, you'd look back, in 6 months and be like, oh, that was the top signal. So I don't know. I don't think it's in, or I'm not saying it's in, but I'd be maybe taking some risk off. Maybe if you're in deep profit on that coin that's just been running nonstop, maybe lock in the profits just a little bit.
Take a look, go to the bathroom. If you're a Dog with Hat holder, look in the mirror and reevaluate all of your life decisions over the last 1 year, as you don't want to be left round tripping your bag of Dog with Hat if this was truly the top of the market. All right. Let's get into some actual crypto conversation. It's funny, I opened the show and saying we're doing actual crypto, and then we share that. So yesterday, the Fidelity numbers came in late, but they came in late and they were a lot better. So taking a look at the ETF flows yesterday, BlackRock brought in 144 million, Fidelity 106 million, and Grayscale continued its less than 8-digit outflows, coming in at the third consecutive day of less than 100 million in outflows. Yesterday was 79.3 million, which brought us a net inflow of 213.4 million. So is the buying heating back up? There's rumors that this coming week, so this coming Monday, we're going to see two giants in the investment space start offering Bitcoin products to all their clients, not just high net worth individuals, not just institutions, but to your average Joe, the average retail person, and that is Morgan Stanley and UBS, two of the biggest asset managers in the world. Before us, intriguing thing here, a lot of people are like, hey, we made an all-time high before the halving. Is the top going to come a lot sooner? Like, I can't believe some people are saying, is this the top? First of all, no, it's not the top. I want to share this with you. Bitcoin volume is around 6 times less than the 2021 peak, despite the comparable prices. So, just one thing I've highlighted here. So the Bitcoin transfer volume so far has hit a high of just $118 billion. And it was closer to around $700 billion back in 2021 when Bitcoin was around these prices. What do you take away from this, Forrest? What do you take away from the ramp up and the ETF inflows again? What are your thoughts?
So this is not trade volume. This is on-chain transfer volume.
So that's what it is. So yeah, Bitcoin transfer volume remains
Gotcha.
significantly lower than observed at comparable prices during the bull run peak.
Gotcha. I mean, I guess that just means people are doing fewer Bitcoin transactions. They're moving their Bitcoin around less. I don't know exactly who's moving their Bitcoin. A lot of, Bitcoin sits still for quite a long time. I would imagine if you're moving your Bitcoin, that you're probably either moving it off an exchange or to an exchange. So I would say this would probably be I would think this is a bullish statistic. That people aren't moving their Bitcoin onto exchanges to sell. If anything, they may just be moving them off exchanges or letting it stay put for right now.
Forrest, can this maybe tell us, hey, retail's not necessarily here?
Yeah, I think that's probably true as well. So, it's, if this was trade volume, that would have different implications. But if it's just on-chain transfer volume, I think, that's probably a bullish statistic that, you probably go and look at like the HODL wave and see like people are still hodling their Bitcoin for over a year. I believe that statistic is still growing. So once you start to see people, the HODL wave go down and like people actually selling their Bitcoin, then you'll probably also see the on-chain volume spike. So on-chain trade, not trade volume, but on-chain transfer volume spike. So if people aren't transferring their Bitcoin onto exchanges to sell, it's probably a good thing.
Yeah. We talk about, this is the first time that retail has been able to front run the institutions. Well, it's a very minuscule part of retail. It's us, right? The people that have been in the space for a while. It looks like institutions are front running the mass retail as retail hasn't even come in yet. The hell you guys waiting for, man? What are you waiting for? You got Larry Fink over here, the world's largest asset manager's CEO, saying Bitcoin's a flight to quality, Bitcoin this, Bitcoin that. And you guys are instead buying, I don't know what, weird meme coins or whatever you're buying on the stock market or spending $50 on a McDonald's Big Mac Happy Meal. Bad idea, by the way. Can't believe those prices have gone up so much. But, we're front running the institutions, but the retail that's about to come in, who knows when Bitcoin hits 100K, when Bitcoin, I don't know. Whenever they come in, the institutions have had a 4, 5, 6 month head start. And so which typically is what happens is the late people come in and they provide essentially the exit liquidity for those that have been holding on for a very long time. I got this tweet here from Bitcoin Magazine. Coinbase says Bitcoin dips are likely to be more aggressively bought now because of new investors demanding to own digital gold. Do you agree with this, Forrest? I know we briefly touched on this kind of yesterday as far as volatility and these dips, but from what we've seen since the ETF went live, going from 73 back down, and we had that one day where we went from 71 to 61 or 69 to 59. What are you seeing? Are you seeing different behavior in how dips are being bought now versus, let's say, 3 years ago or 2 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, so far this bull run, Bitcoin dips have been much shallower, and I think I out a tweet a while ago saying, after the ETF, that post ETF, I think that Bitcoin corrections over 20%. Well, I think they'll still happen, and like still think we'll get an over 20% correction in terms of a big bear market, or when based on the 4-year cycle. But on the way up in a bull market, historically we've seen 30 to 40% corrections be the norm. Last market cycle, there was a lot of crazy stuff happening. We saw like a 55% correction for Bitcoin, or it was like 52%. My thought process is that with Bitcoin, I think the corrections have been roughly 15 to 20% thus far on the way up in this bull market, and I could see that being kind of the case, the new norm, where you don't get you don't get those deep 40% corrections on the way up like we have in previous market cycles, just because of like what we discussed yesterday, the way that these asset managers rebalance their portfolios. If it dips, they buy. If it pumps really hard, they sell a little bit to try to maintain that allocation to Bitcoin. And then at this point in the market too, I do think that there are a lot of sidelined individuals that Bitcoin just it shot straight up. After the ETF, it kind of dipped because Grayscale sold off a lot of GPTC. But since then, we just shot straight up to 70K with no pullbacks. So I think a lot of people have found themselves sidelined. Oh, Bitcoin made an all-time high. We need to get an allocation to Bitcoin. Any dip that we see, we're going to be a buyer of. So personally, I'm not in the camp of us seeing a really big dip, with the caveat, right, in the immediate future, with the caveat, of course, of, look, if the government sells off $2 billion worth of Bitcoin, depending on how they do that, that could cause a liquidation cascade. And we discussed that on Wednesday at length. That's kind of the scenario where, hey, you're going to get a big correction if they do that. But we have no evidence to suggest that that's going to happen. So yeah, I just think just be ready for it if it happens. But otherwise, I think we're going to get shallower corrections. I think this article is probably correct.
I tend to agree with you, Forrest, and I think a lot of it hinges on the rebalancing from these, asset managers. I did get some clarity because I listen to podcasts, watch videos, read articles all day long, right? So they moved 2 billion, but only 180 million was moved to a wallet on Coinbase. So the assumption is not all 2 billion is going to be sold. If it is going to be sold, it's going to be only 180 million, which would happen. Like, they're not just going to flood it on the order books. It'll happen over the counter. It's funny. I got a text yesterday from a buddy of mine. He's a big time real estate broker here in Vegas. And he said, look, I got a friend. His friend is something with the Maloofs, or anyways, high net worth individual. So I got on a phone call with this guy. He's like, hey, I got a client that wants to buy 2,000 to 5,000 Bitcoin. He wants to do it before the halving, and he wants to kind of do it like to the side. I'm like, well, I definitely don't have that much Bitcoin. I was like your best bet is to go directly to a miner, which a publicly traded company is probably not going to do that. B, go to Coinbase and, go to their enterprise side, and I'm sure they have enough to sell you. Or B, aggregate a list of all the wallets that hold a crap load of Bitcoin, and then just try to find their contact info, reach out to them, see if they'll sell you 2,000 to 5,000 Bitcoin in a private or like a OTC kind of way. But it's like, and that's a call I'm getting. I can't imagine the talks and the calls people are getting who are more connected to those high net worth individuals versus someone like me who doesn't necessarily know people who are worth $200, $300, $400, $500 million. It's just interesting. I think a lot is happening behind the scenes. Again, as mentioned earlier in the show, Morgan Stanley, you have UBS, and people are watching. They're watching MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor, which, by the way, did a video on Michael Saylor and how he is just beautifully using Bitcoin to bring value to his company and shareholders. It's one of my favorite videos I've recorded. You're definitely going to want to watch that. But they're looking at that. They're looking at how much money BlackRock and Fidelity are making. And like, if there's one universal language in the world that everyone understands, it's this in the color green. It's money. So people want a piece of the pie, whether you're an investor or you have access via a proxy like a MicroStrategy or a Coinbase stock or a mining stock, Or if you want to just buy and self custody yourself, there's so many different options now. And I think people are really starting to realize, especially with everything going on in the macro, which I do want to share this. You know what? Actually, before I move on to what I'm going to share, I do want to give a big shout out to our channel sponsor, CAMS, Blue Wire Technology. If you run a business and you want to maximize your networking, IT, and your cybersecurity, there is one company we believe you should go with. And that is because, well, we've used them multiple times, and today's stream probably wouldn't be brought to you unless it was for them. So big thank you to CAMS. Use the link in the description or visit bluewiretech.com. Now, as far as macro, I think that's everyone's big question mark, right? The printing, the inflation, the jobs numbers, which we're going to go over here in a second, all the whispers of war and nuclear this and that. So people are on edge, but the markets are still making all-time highs. I think if you sit an economist down who's been around for a very long time, I think even they would have a hard time trying to wrap their heads around, like, what the hell is going on? This shouldn't be happening, but it's happening. So from Peter Schiff here, Forrest's new best friend, I hear, right, Forrest? Did he gold pill you? Just kidding. Another stronger than expected jobs report. The 303,000 jobs added exceeded the expectations of the 200,000. Government, healthcare, and leisure and hospitality accounted for 64%. Manufacturing didn't add any. Worse, the entire gain was in part-time jobs, as inflation forced more Americans to moonlight. And this is from Zero Hedge. Full-time jobs actually lost 6,000. Part-time jobs, 691,000, were created. What's your initial thought on this, Forrest? Do you foresee any ripple effects, more specifically to the crypto markets and maybe Bitcoin?
Yeah. So generally, large spikes in unemployment precede recessions. It's a fact. You go and look at the unemployment chart. Unemployment rate starts going up. It's a time where you need to start seriously making plans as to what you are going to be doing with your portfolio and with your money. And I know nobody wants to hear, nobody's like looking forward especially when we're at like all-time highs in stocks, all-time highs in gold, all-time highs in Bitcoin and crypto. Nobody wants the party to end. Nobody wants to say, hey, let's move to dollars, which are super inflationary and pretty much guarantee that we lose, 3 to 10% of our purchasing power every single year. Nobody wants to move to dollars, and I get the resistance to that. But when we see unemployment go up historically, it usually precedes a recession. Now, historically, recessions usually hit the stock market pretty hard. Now, so far, we kind of haven't seen that yet. We're actually seeing the stock market doing really well. What is being hit so far very, very hard is U.S. Treasuries. And my thesis is kind of that trend will eventually accelerate. I think eventually, unemployment's going to continue to rise because rates have risen, and eventually that unemployment will rise to the point where the Fed's going to have to pivot and they're going to have to cut rates. Normally, when you cut rates, you see you see a kind of a recession usually starts in the stock market, and you usually see treasuries go up in value as yields drop, and you also usually see gold and silver do well, kind of going into that recession. This time, I know you're not supposed to say this time is different. This time, it really depends on what kind of flows that we see into those U.S. Treasuries. Because right now, there's not a lot of confidence in long-term bonds. Do you really want to bet on that 4 or 5% rate that you can lock in on a long-term bond, for 10 to 20 years, outpacing the rate of inflation that the U.S. government is operating at? The U.S. government just continues to issue more debt and print more money and inflate away the purchasing power of a currency. So there's just not a lot of confidence right now in U.S. Treasuries and in the dollar. So what we're kind of seeing is this strong bid right now for stores of value, which are Bitcoin, gold, and silver. The Bitcoin, gold, and silver charts are super, super bullish. So I think it's probably going to be acceleration of that narrative with a lot of volatility baked in once we do get rate cuts. I think there's going to be a lot of moving parts once we do get rate cuts, and I think people are going to disagree on the market's going to have disagreements on what that outcome should be, and that'll cause volatility. But I do think that, going back to the unemployment situation, I do think times are getting tougher. Prices are going up. Companies are having to make layoffs. We are heading into probably what will be an acceleration of uncomfortableness when it comes to the average person's lifestyle and the ability to afford things. So I'm very much on board with the store of value type trade right now.
Hey,
Gold, silver,
Forrest.
Bitcoin, and then obviously Bitcoin, crypto could do well on the back of Bitcoin doing well.
Forrest, can't I argue? So, a couple things. I agree with you. Also, you mentioned inflating away purchasing power. How about inflating away the debt? We know the government's never going to pay the debt back. So, how do they reduce the debt down or cheapen the debt? Is they keep inflation high, right? They inflate the debt away. So, they're doing that. Also, can I not argue, Forrest, that as people continue to struggle and are paying 40% of their income for housing, another 20 to 30% in food, and then another who knows what in X amount of bills you need, can I argue that people are going to look around and say, like, this guy made how much money on this coin? This guy made how much money on, like, Bitcoin is up how much in the last 4 years? And people are going to look at this sector as a whole and they're going to see it as their lifeline of, you know what? What do I have to lose? Right? What do I have to lose? I'm just working to pay bills. This isn't a quality of life I want. I'm 25 years old, still living at home with my parents because I can't afford to move out. And so they're going to be like looking around, where am I going to be able to get ahead? Where can I make life-changing money? And there's no space I can think of, Forrest, that you can bring in little capital and turn it into a crap load of money. I mean, you're a testament to that. I'm a testament to that. I'm sure people watching, they're a testament to that. And it's literally life-changing, right? It's life-changing. And so can I argue that more people are going to see it, and maybe are we going to see like just a mass inflow of people who are flooding the markets, who are looking for those 10, 50, 60x gains. Now, of course, the majority of them will get wrecked because they don't know what they're doing. You're going to see more scams, but can you argue that that could potentially be a byproduct of what that whole scenario you just painted?
Yeah, and look, the kind of, not the counter argument, but the tough the tough truth of the situation is you may have a significant widening of the wealth gap because you've got a lot of people that may be put into a situation where if things continue to get expensive enough and we continue to see this rampant inflation, is like they have no choice but to actually do the opposite of what they need to be doing, and they don't have enough dollars to invest into crypto or stocks, gold, so whatever your escape boat is, whatever your lifeline is, and they get caught in the opposite where, hey, we have a recession, like an inflationary recession where I don't have enough money to pay my bills. I've got to go sell my stocks, I've got to go sell my gold, I've got to go sell my car, I've got to go sell my house, I've got to go sell my Bitcoin, right? Which would be negative sell pressure on the market. But while all of that's happening, it'll probably be the large companies, the wealthy people that can afford in a recession to invest, that'll be continuing to buy things up. So I think you really want to be in a situation where you're not strapped for cash and you can afford your lifestyle and then have money left over to invest, because I think not investing in an inflationary environment is very scary, very scary.
Yeah, you know what? And I love the counter argument. I think it makes for great conversation. I guess I'll look at it from a different lens. Okay, I sell my $10,000 portfolio and it's going to float me what, 2 months, 3 months? Then what? Like, I'll be looking at like, hey, let me find a couple roommates. Let me cut my Netflix. Let me do this. Let me go buy a
Yeah,
prepaid cell phone. And let me just try to make something with this 10K. Because if I just pull the 10K out and pay bills, then I'm back at square one with
for
nothing
sure.
in 3 months. So it's of course, none of us are Nostradamus here. We don't have a magic 8 ball. We don't know how this is going to play out, but it's just interesting thought process. Think of how people are going to react. So it's just interesting. All right, let's talk about my boy Neil here. You know what, Forrest? Ricky said, "How is a stock split different than a Bitcoin halving?" It's a decent question. You have any thoughts on this?
Yeah. So a stock split, the underlying total valuation of the company or the market cap of the company does not change.
Yeah.
All they are doing is like, let's say Apple is trading at $100 and you own 100 shares of Apple. If they do a stock split, all of a sudden you'll just own 200 shares of Apple at $50 per share. So that's the price will be cut in half, but the number of outstanding shares will double. There's some nuances to it, but that's basically how it
Yeah.
works. A Bitcoin halving is just the halving of the outgoing Bitcoin or the Bitcoin emissions. So Bitcoin miners they mine for processing, securing the network and processing transactions through the Bitcoin hashing algorithm, which requires energy. They earn collectively roughly 900 Bitcoin per day. A lot of that Bitcoin, depending, throughout the year or, over a period of time, a portion of that Bitcoin is sold in order for them to recoup their energy costs because it is energy intensive for them to secure the network. The Bitcoin halving comes along and it cuts the rewards, the emissions, the miners' earnings essentially in half. And because the miners' earnings are in Bitcoin, instead of collectively mining around 900 Bitcoin per day after the halving, they will be mining about 450 Bitcoin per day. So the hope is for Bitcoin miners is that the price appreciation in Bitcoin due to the supply reduction, like the outgoing supply reduction, supply and demand dictates price. You get a supply crunch that can cause a big explosion in price that can offset that revenue loss from from going from 900 Bitcoin per day to 450. So the reason you see Bitcoin's price usually go up pretty drastically every 4 years or so is it's kind of lined up really well with global liquidity and like stock market bull markets as well. But on top of that, you have like that kind of that cyclical demand and for risk assets that is just lined up really really well. On top of that, you have a supply crunch. So up to 900 new Bitcoin per day could be sold on the open market right now from miners. When that gets cut in half, the outgoing sell pressure on Bitcoin per day goes down, and it usually doesn't have an immediate effect. In fact, sometimes you see a small dip after the halving, but usually you start stacking up that 450 Bitcoin that the 50% less supply hitting the market every single day for months on end, and all of a sudden like there's just not a lot of new Bitcoin hitting the market into a lot of demand. There's a supply shortage, and then you see price spike up pretty significantly. At least historically, that's what we've seen. So as long as you have the demand present, and as long as or that demand continues to grow like it has into a supply shock, what you normally get is a big blow off top, a big exponential run up in price, and that's what we've seen the last 2-3 halvings.
It's a great explanation for us. Speaking of havings, we're having a third inning as the third of our viewers have not liked this damn video. Hit the like button to cancel the third inning of Sin City Crypto's like ratio. Robin was here, he'd be making fun of me. Anyways, he's in Busch Gardens right now with his son in Tampa. They're riding roller coasters. He sent me a picture. It looks like his kid might need some new underwear after riding that one roller coaster. I'm not going to name which one, but hey. Let's talk about this. Q1, this is tweeted by Crypto Banter. Top 15 blockchains by total transactions in Q1 of 2024. Solana is, what is that for us? The 5X? 5X coming in at 2.4 billion transactions. Next is Tron at 446 million. Near Protocol coming in at 402 million. Then you have BNB, Say, Polygon, and then it's a big drop off. You have Injective, Sui, ZK, Sync, and then ETH coming in at 109 million. Arbitrum, Aptos, Linea, Base, and Flow. Any takeaways from this? Any surprises here? And also, can you maybe speak on Sui? I'm seeing a lot of activity on Sui. There's a chart, I forget what it's called, where it shows on the left-hand side the layer ones and the layer twos and the money flowing out, and on the other side where the money is flowing in. And Sui over the last 2 weeks has consistently seen more inflows than outflows from other layer ones. What are your thoughts on this? And then what are your thoughts on Sui?
Yeah, this makes sense. I do think that Tron's big in the Asian community. It seems to be, the more popular chain on the eastern side of the world. Yeah, it seems like Near Protocol has been crushing it recently in a lot of these stats. We talked about, the user base yesterday, I think, or maybe the day before. Sui, the only thing I really know with Sui is the
Unlocks.
the exact chart that you referenced. There just seems to be a lot of money flowing there. I don't know if that's users flowing there. I don't know if that's VCs flowing there, funds flowing. I don't know where that money is coming from or what it plans to do there. If it's like just super bullish, I don't know what it is. But it's definitely something to be watching and paying attention to. A little bit surprised by how low base is, but base has really exploded, towards the end of March and in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So I would expect the rankings for total transactions in Q2 to be, base to be a little bit higher than it is now. Base has definitely taken off here in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and the whole ecosystem of Coinbase, Coinbase Wallet, Base is very. It reminds me a lot of Solana, right? Very user friendly, very practical, not too confusing. And so big shout out to Coinbase for that. For me, the one thing that stands out with Sui is every time I do my damn research, when I look at token unlocks, they're always number one with like a massive amount of tokens being unlocked. And then also I see a lot of chatter on Solana. We'll get into the Solana outages, well, not outages, but the Solana network issues as far as congestion here in a little bit. But first, I want to take a peek at the crypto markets. And Forrest, as I'm going through this, we're going to pull up a BTC chart if you don't mind, my friend. So I'm going to refresh this page here. Bitcoin coming in at 67,531 toilet papers. I mean, US dollars. Dominance is at 52.7. ETH dominance continues to drop at 15.8%. Total 24-hour volume on the entire market is $103.7 billion. Now, BTC is down on every time frame except the 30-day, which is up 4.68%. But over the last 24 hours, it is down 1.83%. Forrest, we were testing that 69K yesterday. What is going on the Bitcoin chart? What are you seeing?
Yeah, definitely. Let me share my screen here. I'll zoom out. Screen share, entire screen. There we go. All right. So this is the BTC chart. Okay, I think this is pretty straightforward. This is like I don't think we should overcomplicate this at all. My base case, like I've mentioned, is continuation upwards, with the caveat of like, look, there's like this looming thing of like the U.S. government could sell $2 billion dollars in Bitcoin. That would obviously be probably a flush and then a recovery, but that's not the base case until we start to. And again, like we saw only 180 million moved, so I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I'm super bearish and it's going to go straight down because Coinbase is imminently selling Bitcoin. I don't think that's the case. So we'll kind of tackle that scenario if it arrives. But for right now, what we have is what would be considered a bullish pennant, which is just bullish consolidation. A series of higher lows and lower highs that is starting to tighten up this volatility here, coming off of a big a big move. That's your flagpole or whatever. Usually, and I'm not going to sit here, I'm not going to make this as a call. Usually you take the length from before, and then from the breakout that would take us to like 100K. I'm not a big measured move person. I really am not a measured move person at all. But what I would say to simplify this is, look, we don't know with 100% certainty where price is going to move next. There's just no possible, like we don't, like anything could happen in the market. So for me, a breakout to the upside above this downtrend line, to me, if price is hanging out, and I'll kind of shade this region with a highlighter, if price starts hanging out up here, that is very bullish, right? And I know everyone's like, you just want to trade with the trend. You want to trade with the trend. So if we see signs of trend continuation and breakout to the upside, you want to get with the program pretty quick here. So base case is bullish. If we start breaking this downtrend and hanging out here, that is bullish. If we start hanging out below down here, and we got to be careful that we don't get we could widen this up a little bit, but we don't want to move it too far down. But if we start making a lower low here, we start coming down, making a lower low, spending time in this region below this kind of nice trend line that we're starting to develop, below this bullish pennant, then we don't necessarily have to immediately flip our bias bearish because we are still very much in a long-term uptrend, but we need to be on guard for flushes. We need to be very careful. We need to have money set aside in case we do get a flush down to all of this liquidity that's packed down here at 50K. We just need to, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. If we start trading here, we need to be a little bit more careful. I don't necessarily think that means the bull market top is in and everything's going to zero, but we just need to be, respect the chart that, hey, this is starting to distribute a little bit. Now, if we just chop sideways through here and we start trading in this kind of quartile here, so this is bullish. I put B, but bearish also starts with B. This is bearish. This is bullish. If we chop sideways, I'm also in the case that this is bearish. So I would say if we are in this quartile, that is bullish. We are bullish continuation right now. We have not, been given any reason to be bearish, really. We start trading below and making new lows, that's bearish. We break out to the upside, that's bullish. And then if we start trading sideways for a really long period of time, that's indicative of distribution. And you start to see distribution patterns last market cycle like this, where we just, we started, you had a similar situation where you kind of just chopped through this sideways. That's not great, right? Same thing over here. That's indicative of distribution. So we don't want to get caught in the sideways trend for too long with an inability to go and continue on and make new highs. So we start chopping sideways here and start trading back down to 65K, but all of a sudden it's May or June or July when that's happening. All right, why can't we continue up higher? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. That's a little bit more bearish, but for right now, as long as we are kind of above this level here, I'm bullish. I think there's absolutely no reason to be bearish until proven otherwise, especially when we are in a very bullish ongoing trend for Bitcoin. We're pre-halving. We've got lots of wins at our back. So we've got all this ETF stuff going on. We've got the Morgan Stanley stuff coming. Just a lot of reason to be bullish right now until proven otherwise. So I don't want to change my bullish bias until the chart makes me. And if it makes me, I'm going to reassess, and I'm going to be real honest with myself. Like, hey, why is Bitcoin doing this? We need to be prepared for something like this. But until it does that, I'm bullish, and I'm not going to change my bullish bias until the chart tells me I need to reconsider my bullish bias. So for right now, bullish bias, I think we see continuation upwards. Next targets, right? 80, 90, $100,000. Not going to get into specifics, but I think we move higher from here.
You know what chart I'm bullish on, Forrest, is the Internet Computer Protocol chart. So I'm taking a look at ICP here. Shout out to the ICP community, man. Every time we put out ICP content, you guys show up and show out. You're in our DMs. You're in our chat. You're in our comment section. So we appreciate you guys. I'm looking at ICP here. So first I'm gonna look at the 4 hour, right? Let's take a look at volatility. So bands are pretty tight. Looks like we did briefly break down, but still, as you can see here, as the bands tighten, volatility is starting to shrink, which is like think of it like a slingshot, right? The farther you pull it back and the longer it's held back there for, the farther it goes, the bigger the bigger once you let go that rubber band, the bigger the move is going to be. Now I'm going to take these Bollinger Bands off, and I'm going to go to the daily on ICP, and we're seeing a beautiful bull flag play out here. As Forrest showed on the Bitcoin chart, we have the same on the ICP chart, right? And a lot of support in this area for ICP. I'm throwing on the price action concepts here. These are indicators from Luxalgo. One, we had a big break of structure on the daily, which we've made enough higher highs and higher lows for the structure of the chart to change to a bullish structure. And then also this fair value gap we have down here, this green box between $15.65 and $17 even. These dips are being gobbled up. You can see here a couple times we closed in there and immediately shot back up. And this one here, this daily candle on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, we saw a massive wick and price closed around where it opened at. And so it was a tug of war. Bears tried to push the price down, but the bulls came in around this gap area and gobbled it back up. But ICP should break, if this pattern plays, it should break out of this bull flag and break to the upside. Of course, we'll have immediate resistance right around this discount zone. So between $20.40 to the upper bound, which is $21.50. I would like to add though that these are dynamic indicators, so they do tend to move up and down as the price starts to fluctuate. But we know ICP at an all-time high of around $700. I'm not saying it's going to get there again, but I think ICP for the tech, for what it does, I think is extremely undervalued at around at $17. And so I'm pretty bullish on ICP's price action. I did buy a little more yesterday, but pretty bullish on the chart here for ICP. What I'm not bullish on is my trades I'm in currently. So this is our trading platform we use, which is BingX, which, by the way, guys, if you're not trading on a platform or if you're not trading on BingX, they are giving away a free $100 to the first 100 people who sign up. And I don't think you have to do anything. No volume, no deposit, nothing. So there you go. Just make sure you use the link in the description of the video. So we did enter an XRP long trade. So we got in at around 60.3 cents. It's currently at 58.65. We are down 22%. But our liquidation is right around 53.5 cents. So not too worried about that one. And the Bitcoin one, definitely not worried about this one either. This one's liquidation is at 62,000. I mean, could we get liquidated? Sure, but that's why we never put in any money that we're not willing to lose. So we're in the red on our two trades, but overall we are in the green. So that's always positive. And I'm going to go back to the chart here, take a look at, or the coin market cap, take a look at the rest of the markets. Solana is down 7% over the last 24 hours. Forrest, I'm just going to jump right into this. So we have 75%, record 75% of user transactions are failing. So roughly 3/4 of all transactions on the Solana network have been failing amid a deluge of activity brought by the recent meme coin mania on Solana. However, proponents say the data is being widely misrepresented. Dune Analytics data shows that on April 4th, just over 75% of all non-vote Solana transactions failed, which is the highest rate on record. There are some people, like Helios CEO Mert Mumtaz, said that these vast majority of these failed transactions were non-vote, from the non-vote were bot spams. You know, from a personal anecdotal standpoint, I tried to buy a coin today on Solana, 7 consecutive failed transactions. I'm not a bot. I'm a real guy. So am I saying what this guy's saying is not true? No, but I'm saying from a personal standpoint, I've had the same issues. 7 in a row to where I wasn't able to get into a coin and that thing 4x. So opportunity cost. I lost out on potential money. This is not good, right? We don't like losing out on potential money. He goes on to say this is usually not a big problem for users because your wallet will simulate the transaction and let you know that it will not work beforehand. That is not true either from me, again, personally, is it didn't give me that, it has before, and I've canceled and resubmitted and it worked fine. But today, nothing. Forrest, does this concern you? And what are your thoughts on everything that's transpiring here with the Solana problems?
Yeah, a little bit concerning. But I mean, at the end of the day, the fact that this is the network where that is experiencing the most demand is, it's kind of simultaneously bullish and bearish. It's, showing that the Solana network's not where it needs to be eventually, but it's also showing that is where the demand is flowing. It's, for whatever reason, is attracting a lot of users that are putting the stress on the network. So I think there's a lot of other networks that, if they were to experience the same level of demand, would probably be having similar problems. So I don't necessarily think there's just like an easy option of like, hey, I use this chain instead, and you're just not going to have the same opportunities there from an investing perspective. But yeah, if I'm not mistaken, there's one app or one coin in particular. It's like some coin that you can mine from your cell phone that is leading to a lot of this spam or a lot of transaction failures. That's not confirmed. That's just something that I read a headline of or a tweet about. But yeah, it's kind of a double-edged sword. Crypto's not where it needs to be, but we're seeing a lot of demand. So it's certainly interesting.
Rusty
Say
bots,
it's kind of bearish in the short term, but
yeah.
gives us a bullish signal long term that people are really wanting this stuff.
I mean, imagine you're up 20x and you're trying to cash out and you just fail, fail, fail. And then you watch your
Yep.
20x turn into a 15x or a 10x. Not good. Rusty Bot asked, was it on a centralized exchange? It was on Radium. So it was on Radium. I was trying to buy a coin, failed transactions. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, do you think Fire Dancer changes this? I mean, that's the purpose of it,
I'm
right?
That's the purpose. Fire Dancer is supposedly a client that can handle a lot more transaction throughput.
Like a lot
I am not
more.
a computer science nerd that understands how it accomplishes that, and whether or not it would remedy this. But my common sense brain says like, hey, yeah, it probably should if it can handle more throughput. So should work.
Um, you know, this is also concerning to me. I just, we've had Anatoly come out and tweet and retweet stuff saying, hey, look, they're working on a fix here. Next week, we should see something. For me, as someone who's active in the markets, that like next week doesn't help me today where I lost out on a 5x on a coin. It sucks. And so I've kind of put a halt on it. It's just, it is what it is. Yeah. Am I going to sell all my Solana? No, but am I, am I going to think twice? Maybe, potentially. Who's not thinking twice is PayPal. They are advancing in crypto with their PYUSD stablecoin for a zero fee international transfer. This is pretty big. We know the only way to international transfer is essentially a wire, which costs you a crap load of money, takes like 8 days, and gets feed to death because it has to go from one currency to another, from one institution to a bank to money services, whatever. And so it's a pain. PayPal is going to aim at widening its PYUSD crypto application among its US customers. Now through PayPal, individuals will, who writes these articles and do you not have an editor? Now through PayPal, individuals can pay. Use Chat GPT. Jesus. Now through PayPal, individuals can pay through Zoom since this service will be providing US clients with means for cross-border payments through their cross-border payment service, Zoom, without any incurred transaction fees starting this Thursday. This is pretty big, right, for us? I mean, PayPal is the largest fintech company in the world, boasting over 500 million users. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, I know it's pretty straightforward, right? Obviously, this is great for people who are trying to send money. You got family overseas in another country. To us, $40 might be like, okay, it's $40. But some people, $40 is a lot of money. What are your thoughts on what PayPal's doing?
Yeah, I'm actually long PayPal. I've got some call options on PayPal. Nothing too crazy, but I am very, very bullish on stablecoins and have been bullish on stablecoins for a while. We had the XRP stablecoin news yesterday. I opened an XRP long with you. I'm just very, very like Solana. One of the main reasons that I was buying Solana when it was before it ran super hard was that Visa came out and said that they were piloting USDC stablecoin payments on Visa. I just think that you look at the $150 billion market cap of stablecoins that are denominated by USDC and Tether. And if we're being quite honest, Tether has the most market cap, has 100 and change, over 100 billion of that market share, and they're very sketchy. So I think that there's going to be a lot of new entrants in the stablecoin market. I think more and more money is going to be moving on chain at a very rapid pace. And I honestly think that as far as crypto goes, like we talk about all these different cryptos and it's like, there's a lot of BS out there. There's a lot of vaporware. There's a lot of cryptocurrencies that like they're not really used for anything if we're being quite honest. They maybe have a lot of promise in the future and that's what people invest in. But one of the best blockchain use cases is stablecoin payments. Like, being able to send money anywhere in the world denominated in dollars or whatever currency eventually you want to, maybe it's another foreign currency, but being able to send money with very, very low transaction fees instantly or borderline instantly, depending on what network you're on. I just think that's a really, really good use case for blockchain and crypto. And I'm very, very bullish on anybody that is in that arena. trying to promote stable coins.
So outside of arbing, how do you make money with stable coins? Do you have do you just buy the layer one, which is like you just mentioned with Solana, or do you have a strategy to making money if this is a narrative that you're excited about that you think you can make money with the stable coins?
Yeah, well, ultimately, you just look at how do you invest in the people that are benefiting from these stable coins? So in the case with PayPal, it's pretty straightforward. I'm long PayPal because they're, trying to promote the stable coin usage. And the way they make money off of their stable coin is people deposit dollars and then they issue PYUSD. So they're like a bank essentially.
Yep.
If you use PYUSD, the larger that market cap gets, the more backing that the PYUSD has. Well, with all the dollars that are backing these stablecoins, they're just going and buying treasuries. So, for example, Tether has $100 billion in Tether on chain. That means they've got, or quote unquote, should have roughly $100 billion backing that $100 billion in Tether that is on chain. Well, they don't have to necessarily hold it all in cash in the bank. They can go and buy short-term treasury bonds, which are pretty much as good as cash, right? No one's going to be upset with them if they have a 3-month, the bulk of that in 3-month treasury bonds. In fact, they'd be very, very happy if Tether had 100% backing in 3 to 6 month treasury bonds. Well, they're earning, right now with high rates, 3 to 5% on the majority of that $100 billion. They have a company with like 30 people that is making like, 1 to somewhere, I don't know the exact numbers, but like $1 to $5 billion in revenue per year, just issuing stable coins and putting the backing, the dollars that are backing those stable coins into US treasuries. It's a very, very profitable business model. And I think that's why a lot of people are trying to enter the space, the stable coin space. So that's why I'm bullish on PayPal and now Ripple XRP, which I would not have thought, a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, very surprised. Gold, XRP. Are you okay, Forrest? Maybe your wife should check your temperature. Maybe you have a fever.
Finally, Forrest is
maybe
part of the XRP.
You've changed since the baby, man. You've changed since the baby.
Got the gold fever.
Oh man. All right. Let's talk about this. Coinbase to launch WorldCoin and Ordinals futures. Now, Forrest, your base case for why you're so bullish on Doge, and I keep bringing this up, but it's a good theory here, right? Is hey, they're going to get a spot ETF because they're proof of work, right? They've been around for a while. Also, Coinbase just launched or applied for futures for Doge. Now they've done the same with WorldCoin and Ordinals. Is this surprising to you? And seeing news like this, although you might not like what WorldCoin does from just a money-making standpoint, what are your thoughts on having exposure to something like WorldCoin?
Interesting. Was this Coinbase Derivatives LLC, or is this just Coinbase just for their
Coinbase International Exchange?
Interesting. So I don't know if this is the same thing where they filed with the CFTC
or the CME,
or if they're just launching on their international exchange. I got to do a little bit more research to see if this is the same thing as far as like their futures trading for the other three, the Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, and Dogecoin, which I'll look into that. So I don't know if this would lead to an ETF for these two. If it does, then I'd probably be bullish on these two as much as I'm not normally bullish on WorldCoin.
WorldCoin, I'm not either. WorldCoin though, right? Sam Altman, I believe, is the creator of the coin. Okay. So let's just say they do go and they do register with the CME for a futures. I mean, it would kind of make sense, I guess. You got a big name in AI. AI is a big narrative. You got essentially the biggest name and the biggest narrative with the coin, which is WorldCoin. Are you, and not just WorldCoin, but are you keeping your eye on what certain things get futures listings and how you are looking to reallocate some funds maybe to those in speculation of, hey, they're going to get an spot ETF?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely consider it if I have reason to believe that these two would get spot ETFs, then I probably would get in on that trade. But I don't think it doesn't make a lot of sense, these two in particular, to have ETFs for. But then again, you never know. I think ordinals are going to continue to do really, really well. But I just personally, this is not a sector I'm focused on. So I'm personally kind of fading ordinals, but that'll probably age really, really poorly. I think ordinals will do really, really well as like beta on Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin goes up, the NFTs and the tokens on the Bitcoin chain are probably going to also go up. But I'm not well versed in that particular sector. So yeah, WorldCoin just gives me sketchy vibes. It's almost like off of principle, I don't really want to support it. So I just, I don't have a really strong bullish conviction in it, apart from the fact that it's tied to Sam Altman, which just gives it Sam Altman, Sam Bankman. You never know.
I think the name WorldCoin just,
yeah, it's just like scan. I'll never scan my eye for this thing, so it's like I'd prefer not to. It's just like also like
you have an iPhone,
biblical, right? Like one world currency, just like it just gives me bad vibes.
You have an iPhone, right, Forrest? Didn't you already scan your eye, kind of maybe?
That's true. I do have an iPhone that scans.
Still don't like WorldCoin,
all of my biometric data.
Yeah, I'm not. I think the name, just starting with the name, not a big fan. Guys, what I want to recommend to you is if you enjoy this man on your screen speaking, not me, the other man with the hat, I would recommend you go to his website, Sistine.ai, and there's different ways that you can help yourself make money with Forrest and what he does. He does have a research paper. You can get access to his Discord. He does have indicators that you can use for trade setups. From a personal standpoint, I have made a lot of money with Sistine AI and Forrest Research. I made my first 100x with Forrest with Sistine AI, which was a Trump coin. So big shout out to you, Forrest. Also, he was generous enough to offer anyone who uses the code OLA25. I believe it has to be all caps, correct, Forrest? Capital O, capital L, capital A?
All caps.
All caps. OLA, OLA 25. You can save 25% off on, I believe, on anything you decide. And so these are ways to leverage someone else's expertise and time to be able to use that information and make money for yourself. So big shout out to you, Forrest. Also go follow him on Twitter at Sistine Research, just like the Sistine Chapel, but Sistine Research. A lot of great alpha in there. Forrest, just want to thank you again for joining us the last 3 days, taking over Robin's place. We can always do a coup d'etat and just get rid of Robin. And Forrest, would you be willing to join us full time?
Coup d'etat.
No, I mean, as much as I'd love to be on here more often and more frequently, regularly. You guys are amazing. I could never replace the man, the myth, the legend, Rob.
Hola!
Dying.
Missing him.
He might not have a choice. I'll leave it at that. All joking aside, guys, thank you so much. Again, our Michael Saylor video drops in about 10 minutes. So if you are a member of the channel, you get access first. And then the public gets access a few hours later. And then, guys, have a great weekend. Before we sign off, I want to know, what do you guys got planned for your weekend? Anything exciting? I got to try to figure out who's going to take care of this traffic ticket for me, the speeding ticket. 2 lawyers have said, no, sorry, we can't do that. Damn it. Also, before we sign off, do want to give one more shout out to our channel sponsor, Cam's Blue Wire Technology. If you want to learn how Cam's can help your business scale and grow, visit bluewiretech.com. That's all we got. Rocco? Thank you so much, guys. It's been an amazing week. Make sure to come back on Monday. Same place, same time. On behalf of all of us here at Sin City Crypto, we love you guys. Have a lovely weekend. We'll see you on Monday.
Sin City Crypto. Everybody know we here for entertainment and info. Gonna show you how to get that big dough. So every day stay tapped in for big facts, no capping. With Bitcoin, if you're in, then you win. We divide the pie with no fraction. It's Big Rob, David. I spit the game, but they gave it. Name the coin that's your favorite. I got dry powder, why save it? To the OGs, new beginners. Special shout out to the well members. Buy the dip, sell winners. Ain't really nothing you can tell sinners. Tune in for the latest new flavors. They gonna teach us mean coins. They polarizing like barbecue chicken pizzas. I laugh with a major grin. Laggers, we trade them in. Baddies, they came to sin. And sinners gon' play to win. Screaming, hola, till my bags are flowing over. Hold ya to the moon and to the solar. Won't I? Don't be letting FOMO control ya. It's over when the finger tornado close ya.